in your opinion?
I love wrestling. If you watch like outside UFC, everything like judo, high level.
Judo is high level.
My opinion, judo is class. You know,
Judo is
class.
What's harder?
Hi, this is Shadi, and in this video I'm gonna be taking on Khabib, the Eagle Nurmagomedov, and see what kind of judo moves he does in the octagon. For those of you who don't know, Khabib Nurmagomedov is a very much accomplished MMA fighter with a record of 28-0. He will no doubt go down in history as one of the greatest of all time. He is skilled in judo, wrestling, and sambo, and we're gonna see how he uses his judo in the octagon. We all know that his foundation or his main go-to is wrestling in the octagon, but when things fail in the big wrestling takedowns, I've noticed that he would complement it or supplement it with judo subtle takedowns. And in this video we're gonna be taking a look at the obvious and the very much subtle, and discuss the etymology and the techniques behind his takedown system. So we're gonna start with the very much obvious ones, and that is the uranage. Uranage is pretty much a staple in both judo and wrestling, and it means the rear throw. And in judo, in the IJF, the Russians are very particularly skilled in the uranage, as you can see here. Much strength, leverage, and brilliant technique overall by Khabib. Now, uranage means backward throw. It can be either the opponent facing you on the side, it can be the opponent facing you, giving you their back, and it can be the opponent giving you their front, which makes it in wrestling terms belly to belly suplex. Let's look at it from the judo context. Here, from a strike in the kata, the opponent kind of gives his side or his ribs and you just throw backwards. Uranage. It can also be used as a counter. Particularly the Russians and the Georgians in judo use it as a counter pretty much all the time. With sheer strength and good technique, they have mastered it and kind of made it their specialty. Uranage, as I've mentioned, it can also be like a belly to belly suplex, because you're still technically throwing backwards. So it's a belly to belly side, and also someone giving you their full back in case you are countering them. So the first one is the obvious one, and that is the suplex. Here, let's look at it again, kind of giving him his side, similar to like the kata variation of the uranage. The second one, also a very obvious one, and that is the morotegari, or the shooting on the legs, whether it is single or double. It is a staple in wrestling and in MMA, and also used to be legal back in the day in judo until up 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So here is a huge morotegari. Morotegari translates to literally as reaping with both hands. So it can be anything really. It can be the double leg takedown, it can be the single leg takedown, and it can be that body lock where you lift and just throw to the ground, not even grabbing the legs. So morotegari, reaping with both hands. Here you can see in the judo context doing like a sleeve and lapel, and then going down for both legs. Here you can see it from a seoinage, flinch or feint, and then twisting, repositioning, and going for the double leg takedown, the morotegari. So again, these are moves that were highly pronounced and very highly important in judo and wrestling. As he said, judo is class. Here you can see the rotation done to the other side after seoinage, and finished with a double leg takedown. And also a single leg takedown is also a morotegari. You're still reaping with both hands, but you just went for one thigh, and here you can see, and continuing the rotation to avoid being taken down in someone's closed guard. Here let's see again, very brilliant or very mastered double leg takedown. The only drawback to this is you can easily fall into someone's guard. In the case of Tony Ferguson, it can be very dangerous, and also you can get like Ben Askren, a knee to the face. So the second is here. It's a very detailed takedown. There's a lot here going on that you might have missed. He went for a kochigari and went for a kosoto gake in the end. Here the kosoto gake is hooking the leg from the outside and taking the opponent backward. He went initially for like a body lock and takedown, like a morotegari, but when he couldn't, he just put his leg behind his opponent, clipped it, and went for the kosoto gake. Here you can see it's a clip like on the outside and taking your opponent backward. It can be done with a lot of context, a lot of feints, etc. You can do it like a hopping variation also. So he went for a kochi, but then went for a kosoto gake. Let's see it again. So here you can see he's trying to sweep the leg on the inside. He couldn't, and then eventually put his leg on the outside and pushed his opponent backward for the kosoto gake. Now let's take a look at the kochigari, which he tried to go for first, and that is a minor inner reap. Gari means reap and gake means clipping. So kosoto gari is a minor inner reap, as you can see here, and gake is when you hook the leg with your own leg and fall backwards. So here you can see in a swaying motion to the side. There's many variations to the kochigari, and we're gonna see an example of a successful kochi with Khabib later. Here you can see you can clip, that's a gake or a makikomi. There's many words to it, but basically gari is a reap, gake is a clipping with your own leg. You can see it's becomes kind of like a different technique. You can continue rolling in order to avoid falling into someone's closed guard and being caught and just get in trouble. Here now let's take a look at it again now that we've seen the technique. Here he tries to go for a kochi gake, could not, and then just go for a single. Against Al Iquinta, he did a very successful kochi gake. There you can see it. He clipped the leg. He didn't just reap it on the level of the ankle, but he clipped it, so it's technically a kochi gake. He supplements his wrestling with judo takedown in case he could not get the full one. Here this one is a very also subtle one, and it can get people confused. This is an ashiguruma. People might mistake it for haraigoshi or osotogari, but it's an ashiguruma. Ashiguruma is when the opponent falls on their side, you hook the leg and make them fall on their side. Osotogari, you reap the leg and make them fall backwards. In haraigoshi, you lift with your hips, sweep with the leg, and make them fall forward. So this is an ashiguruma that Khabib went for. Again, there's so much subtleties and intricacies in judo takedowns that one has to be well versed in them, and here I try to show them to you and try to explain as much as I can. Here it's an ukigoshi, floating hips, not an ogoshi like very big hips where you bend your knees down and just lift your hips up. This is an uki goshi. Jigoro Kano, the founder of judo's favorite technique, where you basically roll someone on your hips and go for a takedown. Here is a brilliant example by Neil Adams. Just put your hips and roll your opponent on your hips, and there you can easily go down inside control and finish the fight. Again, in judo context, you don't have to bend the knees, you just have to roll your opponent on your hips and down for the ippon. So I've talked about this technique and the variations of it in Jigoro Kano's special technique. Here's another example. You just roll someone on their hips, and you can use a little bit of a drive with your legs in order to get the ippon. So again, as I've mentioned, there is so much stuff that are obvious in Khabib's judo, like the morotegari, the uranage, which are staples in wrestling, and there are all these subtleties. Here it's an ochigari, a major inner reap, again a big move in judo. Here we can see it in the judo context. Basically translates to major inner reap. You hook the leg and you kind of like draw an O shape with your leg as you reap away, and you kind of you use the sleeve and the lapel to push down and forward. And again, there are drawbacks in this in the MMA context, as you can fall in the closed guard of your opponent, but luckily in MMA you have ground and pound, you can hammer away even if you are in someone's guard. So it has its drawbacks and how do you say, positives and negatives. You can surprise someone with the inner reaps. This is what's so good about judo takedowns in MMA. There are many variations to it. Here you can bring someone to you and then reap away as they are trying to retreat. You can also grab the leg, which is illegal nowadays in judo, but it's still pretty much legal in MMA. So here you can do like a hopping variation of the ouchigari. Again, these techniques have so much variations to them, make them very versatile in whatever situation you are in. Here you can grab the leg, reap it, and do an ouchigari with the other. So it's important to see them in judo context and how they translate into MMA with Khabib. Here let's see it again. He has like a body clinch because there's no sleeve and lapel, and then goes in with the hips square, not squared, like a perpendicular, and reaps away and turns, drawing a big O. Here's Khabib in Paris Saint-Germain club doing the ouchigari. So you can see that judo has a big influence in his arsenal of techniques in MMA. So I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown. There's also the submissions that he does in order to finish off his opponents. For example, the hadaka jime, or the rear naked choke with its variations like Connor and Poirier, and there's also the kimura he used. But you really don't need me on this one because they're very obvious. Anyone who's just a beginner in BJJ or knows a bit of judo knows these techniques, so you really don't need me on this one. But when it came to the takedowns, there are a lot of subtleties, and I felt that they can be talked about and discussed and explained. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know down below. Click the like button if you learned a thing or two. If you have anything else to add, please, the comment section is wide open. This was Shadi, and thank you for listening.